The White House is responding now to the Russian attacks on Ukraine in Kyiv. And when these types of situations happen, what you would expect would be the president of the United States to reach out to the allies, to the party that they are supporting, and connect with them in depth and hash out a plan or something. This is what the actual phone call looked like between Joe Biden and President Zelensky of Ukraine. The White House told us that on October 10th, Joe Biden gave old Vladimir Zelensky a phone call. And this is all we got. It's one paragraph. That's it. This is it. This is the whole thing. It says that President Joe Biden spoke today with Zelensky of Ukraine. He expressed condemnation of Russia's missile strikes across Ukraine, including Kyiv, and he conveyed his condolences to the loved ones of those killed and injured in a senseless attack. All right. President Biden pledged to continue providing Ukraine with support needed to defend itself. All right, so I guess it's staying on the same path, including advanced air defense systems. Advanced air defense systems, I guess, to take out the missiles. Says he also underscored his ongoing engagement with allies and partners to continue imposing costs on Russia, holding Russia accountable for its war crimes and atrocities, and providing Ukraine with security, economic, and humanitarian assistance. So I guess the status quo, maybe more escalation, more advanced air defense systems, more missiles. And as you can see, very little off-ramp, holding Russia accountable for its war crimes and atrocity. So is it possible to have a negotiated peace when this is a necessary condition? When this is when the settlement, a negotiated peace is contingent upon holding Russia accountable? Is it even startable, or is it a non-starter? I think it's the latter. And in fact, Elon had a comment about this. Let's take a look at what he said. Nuclear war, the possibility of which rising rapidly. Elon telling us on Twitter, yeah, the probability of nuclear war is in fact rising rapidly. Here's why that is. First, let's take a look at Elon's tweet, because this is what Elon said. Elon Musk, October 9th, after the bombing of the Crimean Bridge, said nuclear war probability is rising rapidly. Many people agree with him. He's not alone in that thought. Donald Trump agrees, many others as well, including this gentleman. His name is Mark Tegmark, and he posted this. He said, here's why I think there's now a 1 in 6 chance, a 1 in 6 chance of an imminent global nuclear war. And while I appreciate Elon Musk and others urging de-escalation, which he says, in my humble opinion, is in the national security interests of all nations. Mark, I appreciate Elon and others urging de-escalation. Elon urged de-escalation, and the whole world had a meltdown over that because they said that he was kowtowing to Putin. But this is the image that Mark brought up for us. And so let's get this opened up so we can take a look at it. This is the flow chart that details the 1 in 6 chance that we have for nuclear annihilation. And you can see on this graphic, when we zoom out a little bit, we talk about the old story of David versus Goliath. We have David, in this case, presumably is Ukraine, and Goliath is Russia. And you see this very problematic cycle that continues a downward spiral into doom unless there is an off-ramp. Let's take a look and explore how this works. If David appears to be winning, then Russia escalates. If Ukraine appears to be winning, which is David, then Russia escalates. Then what happens? Goliath appears to be winning, means Russia seems like it's winning. And then guess what happens? The West escalates. More money, more resources, more sanctions, more whatever. Then David goes back and he starts bombing Nord Stream pipelines, or he starts bombing bridges. And then Russia starts bombing Kyiv. And then they start winning. And then the West escalates again. And Biden says, we're going to give you more weaponry now. And we're going to help even further and give you more money and more aircraft, anti-whatever. David starts to win. Russia wins. Okay, and around we go. At some point, David may win a little bit too much, and Russia may go a little bit off. And you can see a 30% chance that if David is winning, the Russian response is kaboom. Okay, Ukraine gets nuked. 20% chance that nuclear bomb, whatever goes on in Ukraine, 20% chance that gives us an off-ramp in green. But more likely than that is not. Instead, NATO escalates. Conventional NATO retaliation starts. 80% likelihood chance that happens. If that puts a stop to this escalation, he says there's a 30% likelihood of that occurring. And if that doesn't happen, there's more likely a 70% chance of another kaboom, which is World War III. Right, all of this escalating in this direction. Now, the only off-ramps that you can see is if Russia continues to escalate, you may get a Kosovo situation where there's a breakaway and it's an off-ramp. We just, okay, everything is sort of a neutral party. Or we have a situation where it looks like a Finland or Korea. We have a frozen war. We have an enduring peace, or the breakaway succeeds, or there's a simmering war like Libya. Or there's a Vietnam, right, where David wins and the Goliath is expunged. In this case, the Russians are just totally expunged and they just sort of go away. But those off-ramps, each one of those situations, the breakaway succeeding, the Goliath being expunged, an enduring peace, a simmering war, a frozen war, all of those situations require an off-ramp. They require a green exit path. And if nobody's willing to do that, if the United States, Antony Blinken and Jake Sullivan, who went to Oxford, if they all just say Putin has to be tried in the International Criminal Court, how do we get off of this cycle? How do we break this cycle? And it is the most important maybe issue that we all face right now. Because if this continues escalating, then we get to kaboom. And that's not good for anybody. So that chart came over from Max Tegmark. And he says 1 in 6 chance, if you just sort of add those numbers up, 1 in 6 chance, right? So he has a whole tweet thread on that. And it sounds like he wrote the rest of that over at lesswrong.com. And so go follow his explanation to learn more about that from Mark. But Elon responded to that, and he said the nuclear war probability is rising rapidly. He saw that chart, and he said, yep, that's exactly it. Rising rapidly. Not good, not ideal at all for any of us. And as we've talked about, we've said this here many times, that if there is one iota of radiation, if there's one little radiation molecule just bouncing around over there in Ukraine, and it came from Russia, holy moly, this entire world is going to enter a new era. Probably going to make the pandemic look like child's play, because we're all going to live under a constant threat of nuclear annihilation everywhere we turn. So I'm hopeful that there is an off-ramp on this. But it seems like we have a bunch of useless leaders who don't know what they're doing. Or maybe they do, and they're driving us exactly where they want us. Here is Trump at a rally explaining that the world is in a very precarious position. World War III might be around the corner because we have useless leaders.
We must demand the immediate negotiation of a peaceful end to the war in Ukraine, or we will end up in World War III, and there will be nothing left of our planet, all because stupid people didn't have a clue. They didn't have a clue. They really don't understand. I rebuilt our military. I rebuilt our nuclear power They don't understand what they're dealing with, the power of nuclear. They have
very stupid people who don't know what they're messing with, really getting us close to a pretty drastic situation. Nothing. And I remember, do you remember when they said that Donald Trump was going to be the person who brought us all to World War III? This orange maniac was going to get in office and we were all going to die. Well, he's not in office, and we are closer to global annihilation, or as Joe Biden said, Armageddon, than we've ever been. Hopefully they're happy about that. But that, my friends, is the update on World War III. And so we'll continue to cover that.